This is how I made a working clock in Minecraft. So here's the redstone. This is the same design that I used for the keyboard video, but I'm going to be showing you the redstone that I made, which makes the clock automatic. So right now it is currently in reset mode, which means that all of the items are moving back into this first set of hoppers. The clock starts when this first piston pulls back. It takes a minute for this whole 2 stacks and 22 items to go into the other hopper. And once it is completely empty, this comparator will turn off, turning on this torch and turning off this RS snore latch, which will turn off this piston. It will also turn off this redstone, pulling back this piston, continuing the cycle. The cycle will continue all the way down here to the end. Once the second to last cycle has completed, this comparator will turn off. Once this comparator turns off, it will also turn off this piston because it is being powered through the block down into the piston. It will also turn off this line of redstone, which will turn on this torch, which will turn all of these pistons into reset mode like I mentioned before. Then once this final piston completes its cycle, all of these pistons will be ready at the same time. So when this comparator turns off, it will turn on this torch, which will turn back on this piston, allowing the power to go through here, which will not only put this piston into reset mode, but it will turn back on this line of redstone, turning off this torch, turning off this first piston, and restarting the cycle. When all of these pistons go into reset mode, when this turns off and this torch turns on, it sends a signal through this line of redstone, putting an unstackable item into this dropper. So each time this 10-minute cycle completes, one unstackable item will be added into this dropper. When there are no unstackable items in this dropper, this piston will be on, because it has a separate design than all of these other pistons. When there is one unstackable item inside of this dropper, the second piston will turn on. This goes through a crafter, which is set to 2, so that when this redstone power is less than 2, the power will not go through this comparator. However, when it is equal to or more than 2, it will go through, turning on this RS snore latch and turning on this piston, which continues all the way down to the end. Once it reaches the end, it goes 2 separate ways. This way, it goes to this comparator clock, which this observer observes and empties this dropper and back into the first one. That's it for the orange system. Now onto the red one. So this one is a bit different because it has a lot of numbers. So the reason that this is different than the rest of these is because obviously there's only 9 slots in a dropper, but there are 10 numbers here, so it kind of just gives it a little bit more space to be able to turn on all of these pistons. However, even though we do that, it's still not enough because we need an extra one to basically push it over the edge to reset the system, just like we did with the orange one. So that's why we need this. Which brings us to this second direction, which adds one of these stackable items into this decorated pot. Once all 10 stackable items are in the decorated pot, this signal will be 3. So not only will it reset this final RS snore latch, but it will also come down here, just like with the orange one, and reset all of the unstackable items. And finally, it will also go down here, initially unlocking this hopper, which will put one item into this hopper, which this comparator will see, and turn on the clock. In each rotation, it will go down here and to continue unlocking the hopper until it's empty. Finally, there's just a simple clock here to make the colon flash just like a regular clock. And that is how I made a working clock.